that's all I do my editing and all that on. Like, it's so basic, but it gets the job done. Like,
exactly.
yeah, and that's all I need. Cool. We're on. We're doing the thing. We've finally done it. Tim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Kent. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah,
and thanks for the accommodation, mate, for putting me up.
No, that's all. Yeah, no, because, you know, I just want to help where I can. You travelled, from Nanango to do this? So
yeah.
How far is that?
Well, it's about 3.5, mate. But, you know, runners come a long way to come to Dead Cow Gully. So it's the least I can do, mate.
Yeah. No. I'm just glad that, you know, we're doing this because, you know, it's completely different from quite a few of the guests that I get on the podcast. You know,
sure.
They're all ultra endurance athletes or people you know, with a massive story to tell. Not saying that you don't, but you know, you're a race director of, you know, if not Australia's fastest growing backyard ultra race.
Geez.
Oh, well, that's what I see.
That's a big call, mate. Can you write me a reference?
Yeah. So if you want to go through that, because you know, a few of the listeners, I like to describe them as, you know, millennial sufferers, people who've gone through some stuff. So, you know, they're not, some of them might not know what a backyard ultra is, or, you know, if you want to explain what Dead Cow Gully is and actually how it started, because you don't wake up and go, I want to be a race director.
Yeah.
You know, how did that all form?
Okay, so a few questions there. So basically, I'm not a runner myself, but where it all started, I think, is I gave up alcohol, maybe similar to your story.
Yeah.
So I just gave up alcohol for like a week, and that was pretty easy, and gave it up for 2 weeks, gave it up for a month. And at the same time, I wanted to better myself some way. So, you know, instead of just giving up alcohol and sitting on the couch, I started going to park run, doing the 5K, and then started going to like a few like Run Queensland events. And I just really liked the whole vibe of the ultra community. It was such a positive contrast to going out to the pub on a Friday night. Like, these people all, to me, sort of had different life goals. They sort of were pretty healthy, very social. So, yeah, I started doing these events, loved the vibe, and instead of going down the running route and trying to improve my own running, I actually I went to the Clint Eastwood and did some training at Oxley, and I really became obsessed with this format, this 6.7. And people were sort of saying how cool this thing was, because you all meet back at the start line, and like a point to point, you're never going to see those runners again. You can have a chat at the start line, but you're going to be hours apart when you're out there. You're never going to see them again. So it's quite unique coming back to the start line, and you're mixing, you're mingling, you're having a chat during loops. And yeah, I did 4 or 5 loops there for the training run, and then I was driving back to Nanango, and I just sort of thought, God, I reckon I can measure 6.7 out on the cattle property at home.
So for the listeners, a backyard ultra is basically 6.7 kilometres every hour on the hour until the last man is standing. Exactly.
It's a very weird format. So if you finish that 6.7 in 45 minutes, you've got a 15-minute break. And if you finish in 55 minutes, you've got a 5-minute break. So that's the whole thing. Do you do a quick loop and get...
Well, there's that fine line, because, you know, if you go too fast, you're going to be gassed. If you go too slow, you don't get that rest.
Exactly.
You've got to keep the speed and you know, energy conservation. You know, you've got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, a quick loop doesn't make sense. You know, if you finish in 40 minutes and you're sitting down for 20, it's quite hard to get out of the chair. But if that's your natural pace, like Ryan Crawford, Cole Jukes, that's their natural pace, so they do that. But it's so weird because you're doing the same loop every hour. It's like Groundhog Day, and then it just slowly wears you down. And you can't start the loop early, so you can't come back in 40 minutes and start the next loop. You have to wait So every hour the bell rings. So, yeah, man, I went home and, everyone gets these ideas. I always had ideas over the years, but I never had the courage to sort of act on it and pull the trigger. And as soon as I got home, I just measured 6.7. And initially the gully was out of it. I thought it was a bit too wild down there to run. But over the next few days, I actually walked it. I hadn't walked it in probably 20 years. I'm like, far out. This could actually make the event. It's called Dead Cow Gully. And that sort of, it all happened from there. And it's just beautiful. So from the farmhouse, it's 2 Ks up to the gully.
And it's your family's farm?
Yeah, it's my parents. So I live in the original farmhouse and my parents are on the next paddock up on the hill. So, man, it's almost like it's made for a backyard ultras because it's from the farmhouse all the way to the back fence. And you follow the fence line all the way to the front fence. It's 6.7 exactly. So there's no switchbacks. There's no you're not trying to find Ks. It was meant to be. So yeah, man, so stopped drinking and then got into race directing pretty quickly. But I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had no template to go off. So I basically just got 5 or 6 mates to come out and do 2 loops for the first time. And I got a photographer to take some photos, upload them Facebook. And yeah, from there, people just all of a sudden got interested and started holding free training runs. It just kind of built from there. And yeah, it was just, it was pretty wild. I think it's such a different format and such a different location to your regular.
Sort of becomes
ultras.
like a community party, basically. You come. I've never been. I only go off the experiences of others and what I see and what I hear, and you come back to that same start point. And you're seeing the same people again. So during that time of rest, it becomes a bit of a party. Everyone's talking and having fun, and then it's go time again.
Yeah.
At least you're coming back to that same point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Yeah, everyone's different. Like some people like to chat when they do the loop.
Yeah.
Others like to just stay in the zone. So like Ryan Crawford, he generally likes to stay in the zone. But yeah, you can get the loop done really quick if you're just having a chat, keep the heart rate low. Elevation
on that one?
It's roughly, 45 to 50 meters.
Yeah, so it's still a bit undulating.
Yeah, most elevation comes from the gully itself because you're in there and it's just sort of a bit up and down.
Yeah.
But it's generally like fairly flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, logistically speaking, setting up something like that, what are the, the precautions or the red tape that you've got to look at when you do these races?
Yeah, well, you don't want someone to die. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you've been to many farms, Kent, but you've got wire all over the place. So the main thing is to clean up the paddock. And when I started mowing the course, I pretty much destroyed the lawnmower. There's rocks and sticks and pieces of metal. So it took a while to get the course right. And then the event itself, mate, you sort of don't want people pushing too hard, particularly the inexperienced people. If your heart rate's too jacked and it's a hot day, you sort of have at the back of your mind that you don't want any major incidents. So you usually have a volunteer medic, like a nurse or doctor. So with the dead cow community, there's at least 4 or 5 people out there volunteering. So yeah, man, you just got a risk assessment with Aura.
So with Aura as well.
Yeah, so you do a risk assessment and they give you insurance, and then they look over your risk assessment and send back recommendations. And yeah, so behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff going on because they won't give you the insurance unless they're confident that it's safe.
Which is fair enough. And with some of the people signing up to the races, of course you're going to get your Ryan Crawfords, Phil Gores, and the guys that are going to go the distance. But do you ever get people that just completely and utterly surprise you, like the one that doesn't look like they're a runner and they end up going 24 hours? Or what type of people are you seeing come to the especially your race?
Yeah, well, that's the big thing, Kent. Yeah, we have a lot of people come up, like just park runners. They've done 5K, maybe 10K max, and they do a PB in distance. So we've had park runners come out and do a half marathon, and they've tripled their longest distance. We've had other people, I think Johnny Drysdale, I think he tripled his distance. I think in the first year we ran, he went from his biggest run was like 60K, and he ended up doing like 27, 28 loops. So it's just ridiculous. I think because since you can walk and you can sort of conserve your energy and really drag things out, you can really clock up some miles without even thinking about it. Yeah, so usually, mate, the case, I think if you come to a Backyard Ultra, there's a good chance you're going to get a PB for distance. That's generally what happens.
I just haven't had time really to, sign up to one of these. But yeah, it's one thing my biggest thing is rest. I love rest. And I think what scares me about, that format is that, how far can you really go? Because these other races, like Glasshouse and that, you've got a certain time limit to do something. There's a cutoff, but with Backyard Ultras, there is no cutoff. It's just literally you against you with a bit of speed.
True, mate. And people find it's sort of unsettling to enter an event and not know the finish. There's no finish. If you're doing 100K, if you're doing the Glasshouse or 100 mile, you've got these key milestones along the way, and you've got the checkpoints, and your whole body and your mind's gearing for this 100K. But Dead Cow Gully and a Backyard Ultra, it's over when you say it's over. There is no. Usually, people have a goal of 15 loops is 100Ks or 24 loops is 100 miles. As soon as they get there, they just shut down. Their mind, their body they can't do one more loop. The hardcore people like Ryan Crawford, Nicole Jukes, and all them, they just keep going until they're spent.
I just don't get it. And I think that's a good segue into. Well, you facilitated, pretty sure, an Australian record.
Not an Australian. When was this, mate? Was this
I think this was no. The Australian record was this year, but I think Ryan got one of the records, or 50 something hours at the time.
Yeah. So at the Clint Eastwood, he got the Australian record. That was 59 loops. So him and Kevin Muller were battling that out last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Ryan get, or what was the record? What is the record?
But
for?
the big one is so Phil Gore got the record. That was down in Victoria. Yeah. So Ryan was the assist.
Yeah, he got it was like 75.
So he got 75. Phil Gore got 76. So just a crazy. That's
75 hours.
Is that about 500K? I don't know. I'm not too good at maths, but
I'm about to figure that out right now. 75 times 6.7 is 502.5 kilometres of running basically non-stop.
That was just ridiculous to watch, mate. Like the best of the best. So we had people from WA, big powerhouse over there. They came and versus the East Coasters, and yeah, man, I got goosebumps. Like when I was down there, it was like I'm witnessing something pretty incredible. And I think Australia, like in terms of the world stage, we're right up there. We're
100. Yeah,
we're number 3 in the world,
which
at the
is,
moment.
when they were doing that, the Masters or whatever, the international championships, and watching those numbers clock up, and I'm going,
yeah,
they're not slowing down. They're at 75 hours. That's ridiculous. From your standpoint, what do you see, with these guys that are running? Because for me, I've watched Barry Loveday in the Pain Cave at dusk till dawn, I think 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that scared me. Not because it was him, but just watching these guys go to a place that I've never been before. They shut down completely, and it's complete tunnel vision. It's grunting, it's making these weird noises, and there's no talking, there's no smiling, it's just pain. and they're dealing with that. So, you know, when you see that, what do you think it takes for these guys to push that limit? Like, you see it firsthand.
I don't know, mate. Like, I'm just a curious spectator.
Yeah.
I can't, because I haven't done a marathon. I haven't done 100 miles. I've done a few half marathons, but mate, I really don't know. I think it's I think they really like getting that place where it's just hardcore suffering, and a lot of people have a backstory. Like, some people, they've given up alcohol, or they're running away from demons, or if you speak to a lot of ultra runners, there's always a backstory to it, isn't there? Like,
it's common amongst them. You know, I've been to, you know, just simple races, and you just know who's gone through it or gone through something.
Yeah.
You just know, and you talk to them, and then, you know, I used to be an alcoholic, I used to be a drug addict.
Exactly.
And going, I fucking knew it.
And
it seems to be, you know, commonplace, and it's like they've the whole terminology or common thing is they replaced one addiction with another, but it's
exactly.
like, which addiction would you like? Drugs and alcohol or running?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, in response to your question, mate, like why do they do it, or how do they do it? Look, I really don't know. I think it comes back to training. I think you start off, because for a lot of people, a marathon is just the most hardest thing you ever do in your life. Mm-hmm. Like, you see people finish a marathon for the first time, and it's like they've been through a war zone. Mm. So I think they just keep up in the Ks, and they just stretch their mental capacity. Mm. You've obviously got to have a good crew who know what they're doing. And the issue with me, mate, is as a race director, you don't want them to sort of push too far, because when you're hallucinating and you're lacking sleep, you're not making the best decisions, and you could push yourself over the edge. But hopefully they time themselves out before they get to that dangerous spot.
But does that worry you? Like, what's some, you don't have to say names, but what's some stories that have worried you where you went, you know, this person might have to pull out next lap or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Ryan doesn't mind me saying this, but I mean, last year he was passing blood in his urine. I didn't know about it, but it's the first time it ever happened to him. So those are the type of situations. If you find that information out, you've got to withdraw the person straight away. That's a huge risk. But he carried on for about 5 or 6 loops, and he was calling up doctors, and he was calling up family, like, what do I do? Can I flush this out? And everyone else on the course knew. But I kind of knew something was going on because there's whispering, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And he just came up and said, Tim, I've got to pull out. This is dangerous.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. And but that's a big one. And but even those lower levels, mate, like if someone's inexperienced and it's a hot day, like heat stroke's a real thing too. Yeah. Like if your heart rate's really high and you're dehydrated. I don't know, mate. Have you ever had any close calls?
I had to pull out of Noosa Ultra Trail last year because of dehydration. Like, I got heat stroke big time. It was hot. It was about, I got to 48K. Yeah. And, you know, I think they've done better with the race now, but I probably won't ever go back to that race. Just, you know, they called it a trail, but a lot of it was on road. Anyway, I won't get into that. But I got to about 48K, and I got to the top of a hill where there was a volunteer, and she basically pulled me from the race. Like, she was watching me coming up, and I had no idea, but I was swerving, and I've never been that dehydrated before. So I can understand that, you know, push through mentality. Yeah. You know, get it done. But I was walking straight, and then I'd suddenly, you know, got dizzy and went to the left and went to the right, and had some people go, mate, you're right, because you got up. I was delirious. I was hot. I just couldn't hold down water. I started vomiting everything up, like the contents of my entire stomach just. Wow. And, you know, I thought that wasn't enough to pull out. And then she made the call. This lady just, you know, she called the because it was an 10K out and back.
Yeah.
And she said, this guy, Kent Mullen's number, he's pulled from the race. He's no longer running anymore.
Well, that's probably a smart move by the officials, right?
Yeah, and I was like, no, don't do that. Kept running. And I went, nah, what a fucking bitch. I can't believe she would do that. And then, you know, as I'm running, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting worse. I'm done. So, you know, the crew I had, unfortunately, you know, she wanted to push me through, and I said, I'm not actually allowed to continue on. So I can understand that, you know, push through mentality, but then there's an actual, you know, physical health point that you've really got to pull the pin.
It's a fine line between being a badass and being tough and actually being very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, could you feel it coming on? Like, or did it just happen straight away, or could you just sort of feel yourself fading?
It was a hot day.
Yeah.
It was a really, really hot day, and, you know, it was humid. It was raining, but it was that hot rain. And, you know, I did the right thing. And the next day I had heat stroke for the entire day. So it completely cooked me. And like with that one, like that, the next day, and this is a good pivot point for that, is when you know, let's say, what's the longest someone's gone for Dead Cow Gully?
That was Ryan Crawford. So that was 44 loops. That was the first year. Yeah.
So do you ever hear the stories after, like the day after, or, you know, like what's the day after look like for these guys that, you know, you are?
Oh man, like Ryan Crawford. I mean, the next morning they had a few hours sleep, so him and John Pearson. At that point, there's no one else left. So everyone had gone home. They'd gone back to work, right? Yeah. And this event's still going on. And it's me, my parents, it's Ryan's crew, it's John Pearson's crew. So there would have been 10 people total at the event at that point. And they were just going round loops of the paddock. And it was kind of cool. Like the crowds had left, and it was actually really quite intimate and personal. And yeah, they finished the event, and they got up the next morning, sat around the campfire because it's pretty cold out there, and we're having a bit of coffee. And yeah, Ryan just jumps back in the car and drives home, and and like he had 2 hours sleep, and he just goes back to work. Like he goes, I got some stuff to do, and yeah, see you later. And he just drives off. Yeah, so these guys never rest, and even the missions I've been on with Ryan, like crewing for him.
Yeah, and that's another one you did. It's the Kill.
Yeah, the KKRT.
Yeah.
So the Kilkeeve into Kingaroy Rail Trail, and he does these things, and he he famously does them, and he just drives straight home, and he's like, oh, I got some mowing and whippersnipping to do at home, so yeah, I better head off. So I don't know how he operates, because he only has about 4 hours sleep a night. Like, I don't know how he actually functions. To me, I need my 8 hours, otherwise I'm dead. I can't get through the day. So he's built very differently.
Oh, I think we all know that.
And like, I don't think to me, it's not that glamorous. Like, the question is, would you want to be Ryan Crawford?
I don't think I could handle it.
I couldn't handle it. No, it's a tough life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want that life.
And with the like you saw him, because there's one video with Ryan, and he is someone I really want to get on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to do it in person. I really want to sit there with him, but that'll be another time. He put up a video when he was on his assist for the Australian record, and I think you were there with him for that last.
Yeah.
And the video he put up was this, like, complete and utter delirium. Like, you could hear it in his voice that he was suffering. Like, he was grunting and going, yeah, I'm going to get this done. I've got to keep on. I was like, oh, that is... I've never heard him talk like that before. And it was like, if he's like that and he's about to pull out, he's hurting. Like, he's hurting. So when you picked him up from there...
Oh, man, I mean, seeing Ryan in that state, I mean, if you've ever seen someone, like, full-on hallucinating, and... because the issue, mate, is the event actually started, I think it was at 11 o'clock at night or something like that. So already you've got a bad start time, and from the get-go you're at a sleep deficit. And I sort of thought because of that it would be quite a short event. I thought maybe 50 yards would be realistic, but they just kept on going. And Ryan, you could sort of see him physically, he looked okay, but just mentally seemed a bit scattered. And he saw me. He reckons he saw me out on a tractor in a paddock, and I was waving at him on a tractor. I'm like, man, no, that wasn't me. Man, I was back in town getting some food, and he's like, okay, yeah. And then eventually he forgot he was in an event. Like he thought, because there was music playing, he thought he was at a party. Like he wasn't aware he was in an event. And he'd try to get some sleep, so we'd put him down for a couple of minutes and we'd shake him and say, oh, look, the bell's ringing, you better get out there. And he's like, what? Is this still on? Is this race still on? Like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, and he's in pain too. His legs are all like seized up, and he didn't know where he was. Oh. And like you hear that with other competitors too. Like there were moments in the event where they would just look around and forget they're actually competing in this event. So it's yeah, man. It's the sleep deprivation's what gets you in the end for Backyard Ultras. Once you go over, 2 days.
Yeah. And I think that paints a picture for these guys, like the type of person you are. It gives a bit of context. You're a caring dude, and I think this is to just change gears a bit here completely and sort of get off the path of ultras and that. You're a race director. And you also do NDIS work, social work and, helping what you would say less fortunate than us. Yeah, sure. And that, just for everyone there, it shows that you just care for the fellow human being,
That's very kind of you to say, mate. I was a teacher before this, and I got into NDIS work, and I do pretty well out of that, and that actually finances Dead Cow Gully and these other events. So, yeah, man, it's good. I think it's I much prefer it to teaching because it's just one-on-one. Like a classroom of teenagers, I kind of felt powerless in some sense, like 24, 25 teenagers. It's really hard to connect. But if you've got one or two people, it's really cool. And I'm not sure if you know Zach Willard. He's a guy who's got spina bifida. He's one of my main clients, and this guy can barely walk. So his feet are turned inwards. He's always like in pain. He's got back pain. He's got leg pain. So literally, he's got a hole in his spine. He's got no bowel control. He has to wear a catheter. So he's got all these issues, but he became interested in running because he was tagging along with me when I was crewing for people, like crewing for Ryan. And he would turn up and he would volunteer. So I would give him some jobs to do. And so, gradually runners got to know him. And then he wanted to actually do Dead Cow Gully. And his aim was to do one loop within the hour. And I'm not sure if you know Drew Willis. Garmin man. Yeah, he went with him, and he managed to make it back in 58 minutes. Oh. Yeah, so that was the highlight of the event for most people because he's coming in, and there was like a guard of honour because everyone's back in the starting corral ready for loop 2, and you can see Zach coming up the road. Everyone's cheering and clapping, and he had a big vomit afterwards. But to him, that was the toughest thing he's ever done in his life, and it was almost the best moment of his life because everyone's like they want him to succeed. Man. So the running actually relates. I try to get clients to get involved in running, to volunteer or do some exercise, go to the gym. I heard you're possibly getting into the game, or you want to get into the NDIS game. Maybe.
Yeah, I think, hospitality, I'll always love hospitality, but with, NDIS, I think, why I do the podcast, I want to help people. I want to I want to be the help that I needed when I was struggling. Basically, I do want to do a bit of social work with people that were like me that were suffering. Not so much disability work but more mental health, social work. Just to be there for someone. And eventually get into the counselling side of things and be able to help counsel people and facilitate a safe space. Sort of like what I'm doing here, but actually get paid for it.
Yeah, that does help.
Yeah. But when you do these, you help these people out. Like, how does that keep your cup? Does it keep your cup full? Like,
it does, mate. Like, to me, seeing Zach do that. Like, that's a real highlight. Like, I'm a big believer in, like, the clients I've got, I try to get them involved in my other businesses, my other life. So they're on the farm doing stuff. There'll be a few clients coming out to Dead Cow Gully and just doing little jobs. So they could be at, like, a little aid station, halfway aid station, and they're like, cheering runners on. Yeah. And, mate, it puts things in perspective for the runners too because, a lot of my clients, that they can't do a loop, and it's really hard for them to do one loop. So, if you're beating yourself up because you've only done 10 loops or 15 loops, just take a look at these guys. They're struggling. So, it's a real privilege to be out there running. That's sort of what the message I want to get across to people.
Yeah, I think that's...
And it's if you can go out and run, it doesn't matter what pace, you're doing pretty well. You can move, you can walk, you can run. You don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I love that because again, as I said before, it really paints the picture of who you are. You do these things with Ryan, and you want to set up these races, and you're facilitating a place where people can be at their best.
Yeah.
You facilitated a place where some humdrum lady, whoever gets the ticket and, comes off the wait list or whatever it is, gets to, do this race and just give it a go.
That's it, mate. And I think the best stories are the lower levels. It's the person who's only done 5K and they've done their first half marathon, and the look on their face and just all of a sudden they've got self-belief in themselves. They've got confidence in themselves. So often, if someone does 100 miles every month or every couple of months, it's not such a big deal. But for these lower levels, someone who's never run before, someone who's struggling with, their health, it could be they're trying to lose weight or they've been through like a messy separation or a divorce, they often get quite emotional. They come out and they do 2, 3, 4 loops and the whole crowd's cheering for them, They don't even know these people. And people are coming up giving them hugs, high fives. And, I've mentioned it before. You don't get that in life much, do you? You don't get like a cheer squad every loop. People just going, keep going, you can do it. Yes, yes. In our workplace, mate, often we feel, a bit isolated, alienated. But at Dead Cow Gully and Backyard Ultras, man, like every loop, people are with you the whole way, which is quite rare. Yeah,
we need a bit more of that. All of us need a bit more of that, human connection. That's why you hear those stories of, my experience with it, especially at Glasshouse, I could not wait to go into that checkpoint.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting people that want you to succeed. Like you come in, they're like, what do you need? Oh, I need water. Sit down. All right, take your socks out. And you're like, oh, this is really nice. And people are joking with you. And, there's a lot of love for the competitor because, they know what it's like to be in that position.
Exactly.
And I think coming in, again, I would really love to do it eventually, a Backyard Ultra format. Maybe not this year. However, I want to experience that because everyone's there for you.
Come on out, man. Come on out.
Oh.
Were you thinking about possibly doing a podcast out there? No pressure.
I was thinking, again, I've got to get all the gear ready together and do that. But, yeah, if I can get time off work, because now you've released it, Akana's going to be out there. Because I asked Akana, I was like, just texted her. I was like, "Are you doing Dead Cowboy?"
Man, I can't believe she signed up. I just on her Instagram she said, what event she's doing next year, and I just cheekily said, you should do Dead Cow on Easter, and she actually responded to it. I think she watched the doco as well. So
she's like one of the most humble human beings you will ever, like, she came in here with, Jai was here as well, and yeah, for someone who's done so much, like to have that record, you'd expect it to be, a little bit of ego, nothing. One of the most nicest, humble people that you could ever meet, and for her to do, like, fly in for that to do your event, that's cool.
It is, man. When she did your podcast, was she still running?
Yeah, she was still running. She was, I think, day 98, I think. She was still running. So she'd run that morning and then came in for...
so she was running through the Gold Coast at the time, and you just got in contact with her?
Well, she reached out probably a year before.
Whoa.
So I knew before she, like, got it all out there, I knew what she was going to attempt to do. But in this day and age, there's a lot of talk, and I was like, I wanted to see if she actually embarked on the journey and, could get through some of it. And she got through the fucking 150 marathons in 150 days. But yeah, no, it's cool that you've got these people coming out for that. And if I can get time off work, I think I'd probably get out there.
Well, mate, if you want to use our podcast equipment, you're more than welcome. Like,
cool.
It's not going to be the same quality and the same professional setup as you've got.
That brings.
It could add to it, though.
But that's the thing. It could add, to have people in the background talking.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking about setting up, a little gazebo or something, or have people come through like after every couple of laps, get someone.
I'd love to have you up, man, and you can stay in the farmhouse if you like. Some accommodation.
Cool.
But yeah, I think Akana, man, you're dead right. Like, you'd think you would have an ego because she's been on TV and she's got Instagram following, but no, she's actually, we've had a bit of a chat online back and forth, and she's just totally normal. There's no kind of preciousness, or there's no superiority.
Yeah. She's an amazing lady, and I think that's, you're going to hopefully with her capacity for pain, I think she's going to pull some big. Yeah,
well, she's told me that she's still recovering from the big run. I'm not sure how long that would take to recover from, mate, but I think she just wants to come out and give it a go.
Yeah, she'll do well.
Yeah.
So look, to change gears here a bit, I do have. Last week I put up on the socials, listener questions. Got quite a few. So I picked the ones that I thought, were the nicest, the easiest to reply to, because there was some there that were like a paragraph long. I was like, I don't know if we're going to get through that.
Do like a 6-hour podcast.
We could do that. So the first question is from Troy. Troy, I'm pretty sure, is from, he's Australian living in Canada or somewhere in the States. I don't know. Sorry, Troy, if I got that wrong.
Hey, Troy.
What is the most rewarding part of being the race director of Dead Cow Gully?
Man, for me, it's seeing people come to the farm. Like, you totally look at the farm in a different light, just to see people come to my hometown, because our family's been there since like the 1860s. We're like a really old name in town. Man, it's such a good, like when you drive into, you see people come, they check in and they're having a good time, and you wake up the next morning on race day and you just see like tent city. You see this massive car park. There's 300 people on site. And for most of the year, it's totally dead quiet. There's tumbleweeds. And then all of a sudden on this day, it's just like, boom. It's a shock to the system. But, it's so much achievement. I mean, so much just to have an idea and see it materialise is very satisfying. But just to see people take a second look at like country Queensland, that's what I really try to promote, is country Queensland, small towns. A lot of people can drive through and just dismiss it pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm really trying to promote the lifestyle benefits of country living.
Yeah, I stayed in Nanango last year.
Did you really?
Oh, because it was the day before the BVRT.
Oh, cool.
So I needed somewhere to stay, and we just stayed at, I think the Gold Star Inn or something. I don't know. Really, really good.
Nice. So you started in Yarraman.
Yeah, so we did Yarraman, but
who are you crewing for?
No, I'll run it. Yeah. So that was the one my wife broke up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we stayed out there, but I even you know, I took Dad out there, and you know, he loves.
It's a nice drive, isn't it? Like
it is. It really is. Going. Where's that?
Yeah.
The big lake.
Wivenhoe.
Wivenhoe. Yeah. You know,
yeah.
Beautiful out there, because we had to go. I went to Toogoolawah a couple of weeks ago for the Dusk Till Dawn.
Great town. Yeah.
And just driving through those rural towns, you know, as you said, it gets people out. I wouldn't have never have driven out there.
Yeah.
Unless it was for a race. But then you get to see it, you know, you get to go out there, you get to see it, and it's like, no, I could run the BVRT just for, you know, the sake of it.
Do you sort of find, Kent, like when you go to these small towns, it's just like, it's like a throwback.
Frozen in time.
It's like you're going back in time, and it's just everything slows down. Maybe your phone doesn't work, and it's just like, God, life's pretty simple.
That's
you think how complicated we've made our lives and how busy we are, but you go to these small towns and it's just like, oh, you actually kind of feel human again.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And hopefully I can make it out for the Dead Cow Gully. Yeah. So second question from Jacinda. Don't know where Jacinda's from. How far do you think you could go in your own race?
Oh, God.
Like with everything that you've, you know, experienced and seen, and like pushing through those barriers, how far do you reckon you could really go?
Me personally running?
Yeah.
Right. At the moment, mate, I've sort of strung together a few 15 and 20 Ks lately, but I reckon I'm a big sweater, mate, so summer's out for me, but during winter, I reckon I could maybe get 8 loops. Maybe.
8 loops.
So that's your 50, that's your 53K. It would be tough.
Yeah.
I think I could probably do 4 or 5 relatively easily, but maybe 8.
8?
Yeah. Currently where I am.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just, I wouldn't have the capacity to do like 100K or 100 mile at like right now.
Would you ever consider getting back into the
Yeah, I could, mate. I get more satisfaction just from holding like a really good event. That's where I kind of get my kicks from. I know, I've got less credibility because I haven't run the big miles, but I
think facilitating's enough, maybe.
Yeah, mate. I think you want to do it for the right reasons, don't you reckon? Like if you don't really have that desire and motivation, I don't. You know, maybe you could train me, Kent. Maybe you could give me some pointers.
Get Jai to train you.
Yeah,
he's a run coach. He's good at that.
I'll give you a free ticket if you can give me some pointers.
The last one is from Adam. Again, Adam. Sorry, I don't know. I just saw your Instagram. Western Branch. What happened to it?
Well, mate, I'll be honest with you. The first year was great. You expect to make a loss in the first year because, if you've got 50 people that turn up, you've got to hire toilets, you've got the venue hire, you've got aid station food, you've got insurance, you've got photography. It all kind of adds up. Mm-hmm. So the first year I sort of made about a $7,000 loss, which sounds like a lot. But everyone had a good time. It was a good event. And I was sort of hoping the second year I could break even, third year make a profit. So, I released tickets early and they just didn't really move that well. And we only sold about 16 tickets over like 4.5 months. And I was sort of thinking, man, I don't think I can really stomach another loss. It sort of needs to be around 50 entrants to break even and up near 100 to make a profit. So, yeah, man, I hated I didn't want to do it. But, And also, man, in the back of my mind, I was thinking I've got Dead Cow Gully, and 9 weeks later I got the Masters, and Western Branch would be in between those two. So there was a part of me that was thinking, you know,
would be too much.
If it cancelled, I wouldn't be too distressed because I've got my hands full. And it's just me doing everything. Like, I don't really have a huge team behind me. It's me doing everything. So, yeah, man, I just put it on ice. It was disappointing, but you can only take so many losses as a business, as you would know.
Are you thinking about doing it next year, or are you just?
I'd love to, mate. Yeah. I'd love to. Yeah, and you know, it was a shame, man, because when I cancelled, like, everyone came out on social media and said, "Oh, I was going to buy a ticket. I was just about to buy a ticket.
Then buy the fucking ticket."
I was like, "Oh, it's been up for 4.5 months."
Yeah.
And it's like 16. Like, that wouldn't even cover the venue hire, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So it was just a hard decision, but I think it was the right decision. You can only take a loss for so many.
Because
times.
I think when you did, or when you first announced that you were looking into the Western Branch, I was fucking keen because I saw the type of terrain you're like.
Oh, it's awesome,
and it's runnable. It's not technical terrain or anything like that. And it's just one big loop. Yeah, but I think for me personally, I'm a loop person. Like, I'm just I'm not an out and back. I'm a big loop. See everything. Everything's different. You come back and you finish. So I heard some really good things from that. So, you know, for all the listeners that have been following, make sure get tickets to the Western Branch next year, and that's just 100K.
It's 100K, but there's also like a marathon, half marathon, 10K. I'll take you out there for a tour, and there's also a documentary with Drew Willis. I think it's called Western Branch First Attempt or something like that.
That's the thing that I watched.
Yeah,
I loved it.
It's really cool. It's such cool scenery, but hard decision, man. But what do you do?
Here's what it is. To land this, to bring this back down, you know, I ask every single guest these two questions. You know, the first one is, what do you want people to know about you? What's something that you want the audience to know about you, or you just wish they knew about you?
Yeah, right. Jeez, mate,
it's a good one.
Wish I prepared for this one.
I don't like people preparing, 'cause then, you know.
What do I want people to know about me? Look, I think deep down, mate, I think I am. I think I am kind and caring. It's hard talking about yourself in that light, but, you know, to be a teacher and to be in disability care, you kind of need to have a bit of kindness. And
need a heart.
You do need a heart. And I think I hope it comes across with the race directing in Dead Cow Gully.
I can tell you for a fact it most definitely does.
Like, I hope it does.
The conversations I have, you know, are you going to do... Your race comes up as, are you going to do Dead Cow this year?
Oh, cool.
Are you going to do, oh, man, I really want, I hope I get tickets to get, you know. People see, you know, and it comes across with who you are as just basically who Timothy Walsh is. That's what it comes across as the race director.
I appreciate that, mate. Yeah.
You're facilitating a fun event that people want to be at. That's why this year you've got how many entrants? Like,
well, man, we put out the list yesterday. So there's about 220 on the list, and we hope there's like 200 starters on the day. Yeah.
You know, 200 people have 220 individual people wanted to do your race.
It's wild.
And it comes across that way with the posts that you do. You're really involved in it. And, you know, some race directors, they're sort of like, I'm the race director, here you go. And another one sort of, you know, juxtaposition with you is who's the guy that does Chris Kosman, you know, who does the Badwater.
Sure.
Very, very similar way. And, you know, he has that respect from people that, you know, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He'll draw a line where he has to. But, you know, he makes it fun. He wants people to enjoy the race, and it comes across like that with you. So.
Thanks, mate. And I took... I watched, you know, Brett from Run Queensland. Have you done a few runs?
I haven't done a Run Queensland. But I know.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy, and you could kind of tell with his events it starts with the top, the race direct, and it filters downwards. And even like I think my brother had to pull out of an event, and he rang up Brett, and Brett actually wanted to have a chat and ask about how's his training, how's his injury, what have you been up to, and that little interaction was like a 5-minute phone call. My brother got off the phone and said, He's a really nice guy. he actually wanted to chat, and it's just those little interactions that if you add them up, I think it pays off. That you actually give a damn about people, and you don't just dismiss them. You want to know more about them. I think that's pretty important.
I think it's brings back to that connection piece.
Yeah, true.
People want to be listened to, and you've done that. You've done very well with your race, and it will not surprise me that next year you're busier. It really won't. Like it's not so much trending. It's just a good race. And
it's a cool event.
It's a cool event that people want to be a part of. To say I did that Cow Gully.
Oh, thanks.
And that's the awesome part. Like that's what you want to do it for. People want to be there because you did it. That's the best part.
Oh, thanks, Kat. Thank you very much.
No, it's all good. That's why I do this. I love talking to people like yourself that are doing these extraordinary things for other people. So the second question to end this and bring it back down is, not so much of the mental health piece, but more, the going through the suffering and the pain and what you've seen with all these from that, third person perspective. What is your biggest takeaway from that, and what is your message to the people that are putting themselves into these races to push hard to go through that?
Yeah, mate. I've thought about this a lot. Like the big question is, why do people put themselves through this, especially over Easter when most people are going on camping trips, spending time with family. You'd think, look how busy we are with work. You'd think you just want a few days off to chill. But I think what people are doing is they're deliberately going through suffering and hardship because they know that when you come out the other side, there's like these like golden nuggets, and you just feel so much better about yourself, and you'll go back to work and things won't be as hard. Like I just think it puts everything in perspective, where the stuff that you thought was hard and stressful is actually just, it's nothing. It's like, I've run 100 miles. I've put myself through absolute hell. So I think David Goggins talks about this. It's like wringing out that sponge, You're taking out your problems on the road or on the loop, on the trail, and when you come out, it's like you've rid yourself of all ego and anxiety and stresses, and you can just sort of almost see the world for what it really is. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's a great kind of purifying thing to do. Even if you do 5 or 6 loops, if that's your limit,
I guess pain's relative to the person.
It is, and we've all got different pain thresholds. That's what you find out, and you can increase that over time. Like if you do 5 or 6 loops one year, you come back and do 10 the next. But yeah, man, it's. I think everyone has a different response to that. Everyone has a different reason why they're running. Why do you think, man? What's your perspective?
No, you hear the term, to better oneself, and it's very cliche, and it's used a lot. For me, what I see is, I think it gives people an insight of what can happen. For me, I haven't even really figured it out for myself. Why the fuck do I want to run 160 kilometers? That's coming up in June. I was speaking about it earlier. I'm so scared. I'm so underdone. I've got an injury. I don't know. There's some part of me that goes, it is possible that you can, but you are going to have to give your absolute everything. It's not a half-assed job. And I want to prove, I think it's to prove to myself, a couple of years ago, it would have been to prove to everybody else that I can run. I'm the ultra runner, Kent. I think for me, and what I see, in a lot of athletes, is to prove to yourself that you just can. That you can give your 100% at something. Doesn't have to be everything all at once.
Yeah.
But to be able to really push your mind to a place it's never been. Again, bringing back to the Ryan Crawford, he's done it a lot, and he's always, trying to deepen that pain cave and go further into himself. But I think for me, I think 100 miler is one thing I want to do. Whether I DNF or finish it, I think that's going to be my limit. But I want to give it my absolute everything. And to bring it back to the question, at the moment, I just want to see how far I can go. It gives a bit of spice in life. It gives a bit of something different, because I think we all get caught up in a bit of, the daily grind, getting up, go to work, do your thing, go to bed.
Yeah.
Get up, go to work, do your thing, go to bed. And to do these hard things, gives a bit of purpose, I think. Gives a bit of purpose to us, even with the training that we do. It's not the goal that we should be looking at. It's that longevity of the actual journey to get there. And I think that's what I'm starting to learn with this, especially with the training. There is no real reason. I think it's just to feel good for that one little moment, and then move on to the next moment. And that will happen over the next couple of years. It doesn't have to be every weekend I'm doing a race, but those small little snippets.
Yeah. And that's yours. Like, no one can ever take that away from you, can they? Like, you've done the 100 miles. Have you got any... how do you stop yourself from pulling out? Like, what if you get to the 100K and you say, look, guys, look, I'm done. Like, seriously, I know I had this goal, but, like, I'm really...
That's...
how can you put in... Can you put some strategies in place or some safeguards?
My crew.
Yeah.
My crew. So I've selected two guys that mean a lot to me. There's Max O'Neill, Claus. That's a fuck. I could cry off that one, because Claus has seen me at my worst. He's seen me when I was at my worst, and drugs, alcohol. And Max I've grown up with since year 2. And he's... Well, I shouldn't say it, but it's common knowledge now. He tried to take his life a couple months ago. And, to be there through that when he was in the psych ward, and to be a part of that and really be there for him, in a way, he mentioned it was to return the favour. But, I would do that in a heartbeat. It's not returning the favour, but, to have him there, there was a split minute. It's getting on the deeper side now, but, there was a split moment where if it wasn't for his partner to be in the house, he wouldn't be here right now.
Wow.
It was a 5-minute window, not even. But he's here now, and he's doing better than ever. But, I chose him because he knows how I operate. I'm more of a gentle person. I'm not more, I'm going to get to 100 and something K. I know I'm going to surpass what I've done. That's my goal.
Yeah.
I want to finish. And I'm going to do everything in my power. But I need the support, the gentle support, not the slap on the back and grit your teeth, fucking go.
Yeah.
Can't remind me why I'm doing it. Remind me how hard it is, and that I can. And I've done harder things in the past.
Sure.
It's only 24 hours or 28 hours out of my year that I'm going to be in this much pain.
It's temporary.
It's so temporary.
Yeah.
And, it's just to, continuously remind myself, even in the lead up, that it is possible, but it's going to cost everything. It's going to take me my heart and soul even though, 100 miles is a very long way. To some of the big ultra runners,
that's huge.
It's, a walk in the park, 14 hours, whatever it is. But, for people like myself and other runners that are doing it because it's this huge, audacious goal, it means a lot to me, and I've got to find, the right reasons to do it. And once I find the exact right reason, there's no there's no stopping me. No, but there is no stopping me when I do want to pull out.
So worst case scenario, you could just walk it in, right? Like, if you get to a point where you can't run, do you think you could just do the death march?
That's what it was going to be last year.
Yeah.
So I got to 58 and I couldn't run, and it was like, you know, I'm going to death march this until I can't.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where it was like, this has hurt my injury. It's
Gotcha.
hurting.
Yeah.
There's a difference between injury, as we spoke about. You know, there is a difference between injury and, you know, pushing through and like, you know, doing more damage. So yeah, look, there's a few safeguards there that I've got, but I think the biggest one is the mentality in the lead up, the training, or what training basically. Yeah, and community. It's, you know, having the right people around me, doing some running events, you know, hopefully getting out to Dead Cow, and just meeting people that have been through it, done it, and, you know, can give me some pointers. But I think the biggest one is just to enjoy it for what it is, as much as there's pain and suffering. You do it because you love it. There's no other reason.
Well, mate, I'll drop you a little care package on the trail. I'm not too far from the trail. The Masters will be on at the same time as the BBRT. Yeah. But, mate, I'll drop a little care package. I'll put your name on it on the trail there, a little present for you.
Oh, that'd be good. No, but look, to land this, to finish this off, I just want to say thank you. I fucking mean it. Thank you so much, because you're the first race director, or, you know, person of, I can't say person of actual importance, but you're doing a lot in the community, and I appreciate you actually taking the time. As much as you linked up, you know, your NDIS work with that one, you still, you know, thought that it was necessary to drive, because we could have done it over Zoom, but, you know, you found the time to come in and actually sit down with me to have this conversation and give us an insight into, you know, the life of a race director, the life of what you're actually doing, and the facilitator of dreams.
Oh, thanks, Ken. It's a pleasure, mate. And like your podcast, it's very successful, and it no doubt, you know, I've watched a few of them, and yeah, mate, you're obviously a really nice guy, and it comes across that you do care about people a lot. So I reckon if you did want to get into NDIS, you'd be a really good candidate for that. And mate, I just keep doing what you're doing, because they're very valuable podcasts.
No, appreciate it.
Killing it.
Well, thank you so much. I think, yeah, it's time. Peace.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.